Hollywood has a knack for turning the volume up to 11 when it comes to drama, suspense, and of course, sheer terror. Dinosaurs, those ancient giants that once roamed the earth, have often been caught in this web of exaggeration. From towering beasts that were far bigger than life to predators with superpowers that defy biology, the silver screen has given us a version of dinosaurs that's often more fiction than fact. Take the velociraptor, for example. In real life, it was about the size of a large turkey, yet in movies, it's portrayed as a human-sized predator with a brain that could outwit most people. Or consider the mighty Spinosaurus, a creature made famous by its supposed showdown with a T-Rex in Jurassic Park III. Hollywood added a dose of invincibility and size, turning it into a monster that almost felt invulnerable. But what if I told you there's one dinosaur that bucks this trend? Yes, you heard that right. There is one dinosaur that, even with Hollywood's flair for the dramatic, was toned down rather than hyped up. In fact, its real-life counterpart was far scarier than anything you've seen on screen. This predator wasn't just a king of the Jurassic, it was one of the very first rulers of that era. It towered above its contemporaries, claiming the title of the largest animal in its ecosystem. This dinosaur was none other than the Dilophosaurus. If the name rings a bell, it's probably because of its memorable, albeit heavily fictionalized, appearance in the original Jurassic Park. But don't let the film's depiction fool you. This creature wasn't a frilled, venom-spitting dinosaur, the size of a large dog. The real Dilophosaurus was a 7-meter-long or 23-foot-long apex predator, and it deserves far more recognition than what it's been given in pop culture. The story of Dilophosaurus begins long before Hollywood got its claws on it. Its first remains were discovered over 80 years ago, in 1940, within the early Jurassic Kayenta Formation of northern Arizona. The discovery wasn't just a one-off, it included 3 separate specimens of varying sizes, one of which was almost entirely complete. This was a big deal at the time, because it made Dilophosaurus one of the best preserved theropods ever found. However, the field of paleontology was still in its infancy, and mistakes were inevitable. Back then, researchers didn't know how to properly classify many new finds, and the Dilophosaurus fell victim to this confusion. Scientists initially thought it was a new species of Megalosaurus, a theropod that had become a sort of catch-all category for predatory dinosaurs. And for 2 decades, this misclassification stuck. It wasn't until the 1960s that everything changed. A new specimen was uncovered in the same region as the first discoveries, but this one was in even better condition. Its skull, in particular, was far more complete, and it revealed something that had been missed before: the presence of a crest. This crest wasn't just a random bone growth, it was distinctive, positioned to the right of the midline, and it indicated that the Dilophosaurus had not one but 2 crests adorning its head. This was a game changer. Those twin crests set the Dilophosaurus apart from other theropods and proved that it wasn't a Megalosaurus at all. Scientists gave it a new name that reflected its unique anatomy: Dilophosaurus, meaning two-crested lizard. To this day, it remains the namesake of its own family, the Dilophosauridae, a group that includes only one other member, the lesser-known Dracovenator. But the story doesn't end there. Among the specimens discovered, one stood out. This was the largest individual ever found, believed to be a fully grown adult. At an impressive 7 meters, or 23 feet, from snout to tail, it was a true apex predator of its time. And, unlike its fictional counterpart, which relied on gimmicks like venom and frills, the real Dilophosaurus didn't need any tricks to command respect. Instead, its weaponry was all natural. With razor-sharp teeth, powerful legs built for speed, and a bone structure that suggested it was both strong and agile, this dinosaur was a nightmare come to life for any prey unfortunate enough to cross its path. And those twin crests, while they might not have been weapons, they likely played a crucial role in display and communication, adding to the animal's mystique. Measuring roughly the same length as the Ceratosaurus, the Dilophosaurus was a predator that combined size, agility, and a lean build into a truly unique package. While both dinosaurs were around the same length, the Dilophosaurus had a much lighter frame thanks to its hollow bones and more slender physique. This resulted in a weight of approximately 400 kilograms, or 880 pounds, comparable to the weight of a modern brown bear. While this might not seem as impressive when compared to the hulking giants of later periods, it was an extraordinary size for its time. The early Jurassic was not yet an era dominated by colossal predators, and the Dilophosaurus earned the distinction of being the largest known land animal in North America during this period. This puts its real-life stature far above the downsized version seen in the Jurassic Park films. In the movies, the Dilophosaurus was shrunken down, possibly to avoid confusion with the velociraptors, which already had the spotlight. Unfortunately, this creative choice has left many people believing the Dilophosaurus was a much smaller and less significant predator than it actually was. The truth is, it was an apex predator, a true king of its domain, reigning over a prehistoric North America that was teeming with life. Another creative liberty taken in Jurassic Park was the addition of a dramatic neck frill. This feature, likely inspired by modern frilled lizards, made for a memorable visual element in the film. These real-life lizards use their frills to intimidate predators, creating an imposing display of color and size. While the idea of a frill on the Dilophosaurus is undeniably intriguing, no fossil evidence supports the existence of such an adaptation in this dinosaur. But the Dilophosaurus didn't need a flashy frill to stand out. Its most striking feature was its twin crests, which ran from its snout to just behind its eye sockets. These crests were made of thin, delicate bone, and paleontologists believe they would have been covered in keratin, the same material found in human nails and animal horns. This means the crest's true shape and color in life remain a mystery. Initially, some scientists speculated that these crests might have helped with thermoregulation, acting as a cooling system in the hot Jurassic climate. However, the most widely accepted theory today is that the crests served as a display for communication, individual recognition, or even attracting mates. Variations in crest size and shape between individuals further support the idea that they were a key part of the Dilophosaurus's social life. At one point, there was even speculation that these crests might have been used as weapons, perhaps as battering rams in fights with rivals or to subdue prey. But this theory has since been dismissed. The delicate structure of the crests makes it clear that they wouldn't have withstood such impacts. Instead, the Dilophosaurus relied on a different set of tools to dominate its environment. Chief among these tools was its incredibly powerful jaws. The Dilophosaurus had a skull that was proportionally large for its body, accounting for nearly 10% of its entire length. Its jaws were armed with roughly 30 teeth, each long, thin, and slightly curved. These teeth weren't just sharp. They were also serrated, with some possessing as many as 70 serrations distributed along the front and back edges. These serrations acted like a prehistoric steak knife, allowing the Dilophosaurus to tear through flesh with terrifying efficiency. Combined with its size and agility, this made it a formidable predator capable of inflicting rapid blood loss and fatal injuries on its prey. But what exactly did the Dilophosaurus hunt? That question has sparked debate among paleontologists for decades. One of the most puzzling features of its anatomy is a gap at the front of its skull, known as a diastema, which some researchers initially interpreted as a sign of weakness. They theorized that this gap made the skull fragile and incapable of withstanding the stresses of a strong bite. This led to the idea that the Dilophosaurus might have been more of a scavenger than an active predator, carefully picking apart carcasses, rather than engaging in the brutal confrontations typical of large predators. Others suggested it might have specialized in hunting smaller creatures that didn't require the crushing power of a strong bite. The idea that the Dilophosaurus was a weak biter gave rise to another intriguing notion, that it might have been a specialized fish eater. Paleontologists pointed to features like its interlocking teeth near the end of its jaws, forming what's known as a rosette shape as evidence. This arrangement is strikingly similar to patterns observed in Spinosaurids, another group of dinosaurs known for their fish-based diet. Even today, we see a comparable adaptation in the gharial, a long-snouted crocodilian that holds the title of the most fish-oriented eater among its relatives. At first glance, this theory seemed plausible. A predator with a supposedly weak bite might logically rely on softer, aquatic prey like fish. However, new research has completely rewritten this narrative. The gap at the front of the Dilophosaurus's jaw, once believed to be a structural weakness, has now been proven to be quite the opposite. Studies show that this area was immobile and incredibly robust, capable of withstanding high forces during feeding. Far from being fragile, this predator's skull was built for gripping and tearing through struggling prey, and when considering its size, it's clear that the Dilophosaurus was not a creature that specialized in small meals. As the undisputed, largest predator of its time, it had adaptations tailored for taking down much larger terrestrial animals. Paleontologists now believe its impressive size was an evolutionary advantage, allowing it to dominate its environment and tackle formidable prey. One particularly compelling piece of evidence for this comes from its interactions with a dinosaur called Sarosaurus, a basal sauropodomorph. Sarosaurus was no small fry. It was about half the size of the Dilophosaurus and one of the largest animals in its ecosystem. In 2018, the holotype of Sarosaurus was discovered with numerous bite marks covering its skeleton. The size and pattern of these marks were unmistakably linked to the Dilophosaurus, ruling out any other known predators in the area. This grisly discovery revealed that Dilophosaurus was not only capable of hunting large animals, but likely specialized in doing so. Its ability to prey on something as sizable as Sarosaurus suggests a terrifying efficiency, but it probably didn't stop there. Like any good opportunistic predator, the Dilophosaurus would have hunted smaller animals and even dined on fish when the opportunity arose. In short, if you lived during the early Jurassic, nothing in your environment was safe from this dinosaur's insatiable appetite. But its arsenal of deadly tools wasn't limited to its bite. The Dilophosaurus's arms were just as formidable as its jaws. These limbs were surprisingly long and muscular, with features that reveal their lethal potential. Deep pits and ridges in the arm bones indicate strong muscle and ligament attachments, making them both powerful and flexible. Each arm ended in 3 razor-sharp claws, with the first claw being noticeably larger than the others, perfect for slashing and gripping. These claws gave the Dilophosaurus an added edge in combat, allowing it to latch onto prey and prevent escape while delivering devastating injuries. Combined with its strength and precision, its arms were a nightmare for anything it set its sights on. If you think that's terrifying, its ability to capture prey didn't stop there. The Dilophosaurus wasn't just strong, it was also astonishingly fast for its size. Contrary to its portrayal in Jurassic Park, this predator didn't rely on venom or tricks to bring down prey. Instead, it was a speedster, capable of chasing down targets with its highly developed legs and lightweight frame. One of the secrets to its agility lies in its respiratory system. The Dilophosaurus had fleshy air sacs in its vertebrae, an adaptation seen in modern birds and crocodiles. These air sacs facilitated unidirectional breathing, which meant it could take in oxygen continuously, even while running. This trait is a hallmark of animals with high metabolisms, indicating the Dilophosaurus was an active and swift hunter. And just when you think this dinosaur couldn't get more intimidating, there's evidence suggesting it may have hunted in groups. When its bones were first discovered, they were found in close proximity to 2 other specimens, hinting at possible pack behavior. While this idea remains speculative, many paleontologists believe small groups, likely no more than 3 individuals, could have worked together to take down larger prey. Given the Dilophosaurus's size and dominance, sustaining a larger pack would have been challenging, but even 3 of these predators would have been more than enough to terrorize their environment. Despite all its advantages, being the apex predator of the early Jurassic didn't make life easy for Dilophosaurus. In fact, this dinosaur is infamous among paleontologists for the significant signs of injury and disease preserved in its fossilized remains. The holotype specimen alone holds a grim record. It has the highest number of damaged bones ever documented in a theropod, with 8 distinct injuries. To put that in perspective, the theropod with the second highest number of damaged bones has only 4. That's half the number of wounds found on this unlucky individual. What's particularly fascinating is the pattern of injuries. The damage on this Dilophosaurus is concentrated primarily in its arms, which suffered from an array of painful afflictions, including bony tumors, stress fractures, bone torsions, and deformities. These injuries were so severe that they would have been debilitating in life. Reconstructions show that one arm was effectively out of commission, forcing the animal to rely heavily on the other. Imagine trying to survive in a brutal Jurassic world while carrying a limb that no longer worked as intended. It must have been a constant struggle. As for how these injuries happened, paleontologists can only speculate. Some theories suggest they might have been the result of failed hunts, where prey fought back, or from violent clashes with rival predators. The early Jurassic was no playground, and the life of a top predator was fraught with danger at every turn. But here's the interesting part. While injuries to the arms were common, studies of over 60 specimens found no fractures on the legs or feet. This lack of lower body damage strongly suggests that the Dilophosaurus's arms were indispensable, tools for survival, used both as weapons and for handling prey. Their frequent use may have made them more susceptible to wear and tear, while the legs, designed for powerful movement and speed, remained relatively unscathed. Despite all the physical hardships these creatures endured, one thing becomes clear. The Dilophosaurus was incredibly tough. The sheer number of wounds found across specimens hints at a predator with an extraordinary ability to withstand pain and continue hunting. This resilience would have been crucial, considering the challenging conditions it faced during its time on Earth. The early Jurassic was no picnic. Fossil dating places the Dilophosaurus's reign roughly 183 million years ago, in an era where the world was still recovering from the devastating Triassic-Jurassic extinction event. Life was sparse, competition was fierce, and the environment was unforgiving. At this time, the planet was dominated by the massive supercontinent Pangaea and the vast global ocean Pantalassa. The climate was still hot and arid, with limited resources available for survival. This meant that every hunt, every confrontation, and every injury carried higher stakes. To thrive in such a hostile world, the Dilophosaurus needed not just physical power, but also an ironclad will to endure. The world of Dilophosaurus was as harsh as it was fascinating. Its environment was a land of extremes, with brutal dry seasons that sent sand dunes migrating across the landscape, turning large swaths of its habitat into barren wastelands. During these harsh periods, survival would have been a monumental challenge. But amidst this dry and unforgiving environment lay a lifeline, Lake Dixie, a vast prehistoric lake that likely served as a crucial sanctuary. This massive body of water provided much-needed relief and a steady supply of food, acting as a stabilizing force in an otherwise hostile ecosystem. During the wet seasons, the landscape would dramatically transform. Rivers and streams would spring to life, carving through the terrain and creating temporary oases reminiscent of the desert springs we see today. These moments of abundance brought a flurry of activity, as creatures large and small took advantage of the brief respite from the harsh climate. Despite the challenges, the world of Dilophosaurus wasn't devoid of life. In fact, this era saw a surprising diversity of species coexisting, each playing its part in the complex web of life. Alongside Dilophosaurus, other dinosaurs roamed the land, such as the Sarosaurus mentioned earlier, as well as others like Megapnosaurus, Kayentavinator, and Scutellosaurus, each contributing to the Jurassic ecosystem. The land wasn't ruled by dinosaurs alone. Other creatures thrived here too. The waters were teeming with life, including various hibodont sharks, bony fish, and even ancient lungfish, which could endure the harsh dry spells by burying themselves in mud. On land, reptiles like lizards and salamanders found niches to exploit, while crocodile-like creatures known as crocodilomorphs, such as Calcoiasuchus and Protosuchus, prowled the waterways. High above, the skies were ruled by the early pterosaur Ramphinion, gliding effortlessly in search of prey. Even early mammals began to make their mark during this time. Tiny, shrew-like creatures like Kyantotherium and Oligokyphus scurried through the underbrush, quietly eking out their existence in a world dominated by giants. Yet, for all the life forms that called this rugged land home, none could compare to the sheer size, power, and dominance of Dilophosaurus. It was the undisputed apex predator, the master of its environment, and a true icon of the early Jurassic. But here's the twist. The real Dilophosaurus is far more impressive than its Hollywood portrayal. While the fictionalized version spit venom and sported a frill, the truth about this dinosaur's abilities, adaptations, and challenges is even more extraordinary. Its legacy, though misunderstood for decades, stands as a testament to its evolutionary success. And speaking of misunderstood legacies, this isn't the only animal whose modern reputation doesn't do its ancient history justice. If you're curious about other creatures that have surprising pasts, check out my recent video where I dive into the stories of 7 animals that were once giants or fearsome predators, but are now quite small and unassuming. You might be amazed at how much the natural world has changed over time. Before we wrap up, I want to take a moment to thank you. This channel was born from two things: my love for dinosaurs, paleontology, and extinct animals, and my passion for sharing free, educational paleo content with the world. My goal has always been to make this fascinating field of science accessible to everyone, no matter where they live or what language they speak. And now, I want to take this mission even further. I'm dreaming of expanding this channel to reach audiences in countries and languages that I can't speak. But for that, I'll need your help. Whether it's through sharing these videos, supporting the channel, or simply spreading the word about the wonders of paleontology, every bit counts. Together, we can bring the stories of these ancient creatures to more people around the world and inspire curiosity in future generations. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay curious, stay passionate, and I'll see you in the next video.